Good morning. Let me share my screen. We can get the show on the road. All right. Today we're going to be talking about preparing, sending, and signing documents. We're going to be talking about Lone Wolf Transactions, zipForm edition. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jackson Baudelaire. I am a transaction specialist at the California Association of Realtors. I was a realtor myself for about 10 years. Up in the South Bay in Los Angeles. I think real estate's a fantastic career, and I applaud all of you for getting through this pandemic with your heads above water. I do love education, and I love making sure that realtors like yourselves are confident, competent, and efficient in the software that is so vital to our business, which is zipForm. This is where we get our California standard forms. And today we're going to be talking about templates, creating templates, assigning or managing templates. We're going to talk about mls-Connect versus Record Connect and the added benefits of these features. We're going to talk about adding external documents to our transactions. We're going to go over Zip Community and some of the sharing tools that are available to us. And then we're going to talk about how digital signatures integrate into this system. I know Shirley was talking about some of the other training opportunities that are available at your association. I want to talk about some of the training on demand that is available through CAR and through Lone Wolf Technologies. Lone Wolf has a YouTube channel. It's still ZipLogic's YouTube channel, but they have a lot of great training videos on there. There's online training via ZipLogic's and Lone Wolf. There's also lots of great webinars that CAR puts on. We do 5 to 7 webinars every month. You can go to car.org and check out some of the webinars. Definitely sign up for the webinars if you see anything that even remotely interests you, because even if you don't attend, you will get a link to the recording 24 hours later. There's also phone support for Lone Wolf that's available to you 24 hours, Monday through Friday, 10 to 10 on the weekends. And there is the CAR Customer Contact Center. We are very, very fortunate to have a customer contact center in California. Not every association has a in-house contact center, but we do. And we have a legal hotline. We have zipForm help. We have Glide help. I really shouldn't say Glide help, but we can direct you to the right place. Definitely use the resources that are available to you as a member benefit. So let's jump into zipForm and start looking at some of these features in here. So the first thing we were going to talk about was templates. So we can see here that I have 4 templates that I have set up for myself. Let's talk about the types of templates that are most often used in zipForm. You can see here that I have a listing template and I have a purchase template. These templates are set to be auto templates. You can see it says auto template here. What does that mean? It means that any time that I start a residential purchase transaction, this is automatically going to apply. The same goes for my listing template. Residential listing, this is going to apply. The other types of templates that I have are my escrow checklist here. You can see that this is not an auto template, and my PED template, which is also not an auto template. That means that I'm going to manually apply these templates during the course of my transaction. I do that because I don't always want a PED in my transaction. If I've already seen the property, if it's something that we're writing an offer on, prior to visiting, maybe we've seen the virtual tour and we want to put an offer in, maybe the PED doesn't apply right away. But when it does, I can apply that template and get the PED signed. Same goes for my escrow checklist. As much as I would love every transaction inside of Zip to end up being an escrow, it's just not the case. So let's take a look at my listing template, and then we'll move on to my purchase template. So my listing template has some good organization to it. Okay. When you take a listing, it's, for all intents and purposes, it's likely going to end in a closed escrow. So I want to make sure that right off the bat, I'm as organized as I possibly can be. So I have my folders. To add folders, we can use the Add Folder button. Adding folders allows you to organize your transaction in ways that work for you. Now, my listing documents, I have a listing agreement, my cover sheet, I have the listing agreement coronavirus addendum, and I have the PED-S, the PED seller form. You can see also that I have a couple placeholders here. I have a list of providers, a list of repairs, and an MLS printout. I like to use placeholders because they, for me, the way my brain works, I like to have a visual reminder of something that I need to add later. To add a placeholder, we can click the add document up here at the top. We can create a placeholder. So a placeholder is sometimes it's just a spot that you're going to fill with one of the standard forms. In this case, it's going to be something that I generate outside of Zip. So my list of providers, I like to get a list of what does the seller have for cable, internet, gas, electric, maybe who their cell phone provider is. Do they have good service? Do they, does it work for them? Who do they use for their gardener? Just the types of things that people are going to call on your sign. People are going to call, when they find your listing on the internet. You want to be as knowledgeable as possible about your listing. Agents are going to call as well and ask you, hey, do you know this and this and this? So having that little cheat sheet, in my opinion, is super helpful. I use that in practice. It always worked for me. Also, a list of repairs. Now, I'm not talking about a TDS or SPQ level of list of repairs. I just want to know, hey, that roof looks pretty new. What year did you put that on? Again, things that people are going to ask when they call on your sign. I want to know, hey, that big addition that's on the back of your house, obviously it's not original. What year did you do that addition? I don't want to know anything else really. I just want to be able to be knowledgeable about the house. The MLS printout is, for me, I always include that in my closing file. Just, it's always helpful to have a printout of the MLS listing as you entered it into the MLS. So my cover sheet inside of my template, because again, a template is not the actual transaction document. This is just prepping a folder of information for use at a later date. So there's no buyers or sellers names in here. There's no property information in here because this is a template and it needs to be evergreen. But I do have my information in here as the selling broker. This is the way that I want my information to be displayed when I start my listing transaction. So I'm in control of that with the template. On my listing agreement, I've pre-checked a couple boxes. For example, where's my full screen? There it is. For example, the seller box here. A lot of people often forget that. It's just one of those things that another one of those little tedious minor details that we have to be mindful of when we're creating and filling out these contracts. So I'm pre-checking that so that it'll already be checked when I start my listing. The same goes for the actual listing agreement. I've checked a couple boxes. Let's take a look at that. So I very ambitiously put 6% in there. I put 90 days after listing period for my dates in here. Again, I'm not telling you how to fill the listing agreement out. I'm just giving you examples of ways that you can prep things ahead of time. Okay, for the coronavirus addendum, I just have that in there for now. Hopefully that won't always be a thing, same as the PED form. But those are my documents that are in the template. I also have a checklist. Now my checklist ties into those placeholders. I have my list of providers due on the listing date. I have add the listing to the MLS 2 days after the listing date. And I have my MLS printout my placeholder is attached to the task. Same for my list of repairs, 2 days after the listing date. So these dates, these are called relative due dates. These relative due dates are based on a number of days before or after the listing date or one of the other transaction dates. So it looks like people are using the chat. Let's switch to using the Q&A box, please. If you're going to ask your questions, let's use the Q&A box so that I can better answer your questions. Now, my tasks here, I have the name of the task, I have a due date, I set myself as the responsible party, which means that I'm going to get an email 2 days prior to the due date and also 2 days after the due date is past due. And again, I attached my placeholder to the task itself, and I put a little description, list of upgrades and general information about improvements. Now I have another task in here that's the category is after close. So I have call my client to check on their house and say, congratulations on 6 months of owning it. So I've set this 180 days after the closing date. So I am using this transaction management system as a follow-up tool as well. This is a very powerful system that can accommodate things like reminding you 6 months after the closing to call your client and say, hey, congratulations on selling your house 6 months ago. How's everything going? Do you need anything? It's all about follow-up, all about follow-up. So that is my listing template. Let's take a look at my purchase template now. So my purchase template has a lot less structure to it because listings need a lot of organization. We're going to write a lot more offers than we're going to write listings, most likely. So I have a placeholder for the pre-approval. I have a placeholder for the proof of funds. I have my cover sheet with my information as the selling broker, not the listing broker. I have an RPA, and I have my finance worksheet and my summary of the offer. So we'll take a look at these two forms once we actually apply this template to a real transaction. But my RPA, again, has a couple boxes checked just to prep myself ahead of time. I have the buyer box checked in here. On the RPA itself, I have my information in here. I have these check boxes for seller only, buyer only. I have 30 days in there. Just some general helpful dates. I'm getting a call. Just some helpful dates. So let's apply this to a transaction, and we're going to look at using mls-Connect and Record Connect and the differences between the two. So I'm going to start a new transaction. This is going to be a new purchase. So before I name it, before I use mls-Connect, I'm going to check this residential category. So I chose purchase and then I chose residential. So what's going to happen is my template is automatically going to apply. Automatically going to apply. I'm going to use mls-Connect to bring in information about the property. So today I'm going to be using Claw because that's the login that I have currently, but I am going to be pulling in a listing that's from CRMLS. So this is on Foothill Drive in Vista. And I'm gonna, so I put in the listing ID. It's gonna bring in the address, city, state, zip, the listing price, the date that it was listed. It's gonna bring in the other agent's information, plus some other information. Let's grab the address, because I'm gonna use that address as the name of the transaction. If I can get rid of the word address. Okay, so you can see here that this is trying to autofill the actual address, but these are in other states. This is not what I'm trying to do. So let's see if we can keep adding to this. There's Vista, perfect. So as I started typing in the word Vista, it came up. And if you notice, this Record Connect button was grayed out, but now it's available. So I do have to tell you, Record Connect is not a member benefit. Record Connect is a paid product. It's about $24.95 a year. But I believe it's worth it. mls-Connect is more specifically for the purchase side of zipForm. Record Connect is for the listing side. Now when you're writing an offer, generally you're going to be writing an offer on a property that's on the MLS. Record Connect pulls information from public record to inform your new listing because it's your listing. It's probably not on the MLS yet. So that's where this kind of comes in. So we're going to we're in this transaction. I know it's a bit confusing, but we're going to be using both for right now. I already used mls-Connect to bring in information from the MLS, but if I click on this Record Connect button, I click Save, it's going to apply my template. It's going to bring in the information from mls-Connect, but it's also going to bring up this box here for Record Connect. And it's going to ask me, who is the owner? And it wants to get this in a first, middle, last name view. So because the public record is a bit confusing sometimes with the order of the names, I'm going to guess that this is the A. Eddie Lomelli Trust. I'm going to guess that that's the correct form of this name. So that's choosing the seller one. So this is also going to inform the parties in the transaction with the actual name of the trust. So that this is the Eddie Lomelli Trust dated May 9th of 2002. So it's also going to bring in the school district, the subdivision, the year built, the zoning, parcel number, the legal description. So there's a lot of information that you can bring in without having to manually enter it. So we've successfully used mls-Connect and Record Connect on this transaction to make sure that we have all of the possible information about this property. Probably more than we actually need, but there's nothing wrong with that. So I see a question here. Can the same templates be set up for zipForm standard instead of online? So zipForm standard allows you to create templates of documents, but the functionality is far, far less than this online version, this Lone Wolf Transactions Online. There still are about 10,000 realtors in California that use zipForm standard as their primary way to get to the forms. I don't recommend that you use zipForm standard if you don't have to. It's quite limited and they are not updating it or maintaining it really anymore, but it's not going away anytime soon. Okay, so we've applied our template. We've used our mls-Connect and Record Connect to bring in information. Now we need to start filling in the property summary here. So we have the summary that was brought in from elsewhere to bring data in. Now we need to fill in our purchase summary. So our offer date is going to be today. Our offer is going to be extremely aggressive, so it's going to expire tomorrow. We have not gotten our offer accepted yet. What did they list it for? They listed it for $679,900. So we're going to go $672,500. The contract date is going to be today. Our closing date, I think I put 30 days in there. So let's just go a month out and say, we don't want to close on a Friday. Let's close on a Thursday. And we're going to take possession that same day on the 8th. All right. So you can see mls-Connect brought in the listing agent. My template brought in myself as the selling agent. But I need to add a buyer now, right? So let's go to the parties tab up here. You can see that the seller was brought in from Record Connect. My buyer is going to be someone that I've done business with before. So I'm going to open up the address book. Look for my buddy Ricardo. So I have his first name, last name, and his email. That's all that you have to have, really. Those are the required fields. And I have him saved in here as a contact. Now, I've done business with Ricardo before, and I know that he likes to review the offer prior to signing it. And I want to provide him with a secure, encrypted environment to review documents. And I also want him to be able to upload his pre-approval and his proof of funds in a secure and encrypted environment. So I'm going to invite him to the transaction. Okay. I'm going to hit save, and now it's going to ask me, what do you want to allow him to do? Let's define the user permissions of this share, because we're talking about Zip community collaboration tools. So the first thing I do not want him to be able to edit forms. He doesn't need to edit any forms, but I do want him to be able to upload. I want him to upload that pre-approval and upload his proof of funds. The stop sharing date is going to be set to 30 days. Wow, I'm good. The 8th, this 30 days. I don't usually hit it right on the dot like that. Okay, so 30 days is the default. I like to just not have a stop sharing date. The reason why is because I like to provide my client with this portal, this Zip community portal, for as long as the transaction is in my zipForm account. And that's because I want to fill this Zip community portal with all of the final executed documents so that my client has access to it after the transaction is closed. So rather than burning a CD or a flash drive or a Google Drive or a Dropbox link to provide your client with all of their closing documents, why not give them an online portal that has a username and a password, it's encrypted, it's secure, and have them have access to a portal that has your name and your contact information on it, and they're going to think of you every time they log in there. It's a pretty powerful tool. So now we're going to choose what we want to share. So I said my client wants to review the RPA, and I also want him to be able to upload his documents in there. So I'm going to choose the RPA. I'm going to click Save and Send. Now it's going to send him an email, and I'm going to put a little message in here. Please upload your proof of funds and pre-approval, and hit send. So my client is going to receive an email with that little message in it, inviting them to collaborate on this transaction. So now I can go into my RPA, and I will see that a lot of the information has been filled in. So I already have my buyer in here. That's working. My fair housing form has my buyer. It also has the name of the seller. The PRBS is fully filled out now. There's an address on there. My RPA is pretty well filled out because I was filling things in from the summary tab. So the date was prepared. It has all the property information, the APN. There's my price. I have my 30 days to close. But now I get down to the initial deposit. I like to do 3%. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I like to do 3%. I also don't like to do math if I don't have to, okay? So that's why I have the RPA financing worksheet. The RPA financing worksheet, it's the RPAWS. This is not a form that needs signature. It's not a form that you're going to send to your client or to the other agent. This is strictly for you. It's a worksheet for you to fill out your RPA. Let's take a look at it. So we have, and you can notice here that these are references to all of the different paragraphs in the RPA. Initial deposit, increased deposit, loan, balance of purchase price. There's our purchase price and there's our balance of purchase price. So I want to do 3%. So I'm going to check the 3%. And we see, oh, there's our first deposit. We're not doing an additional deposit, but I know that my client is going to put 20% down, 538. So now I have an initial deposit, I have a loan amount, and I have a balance of purchase price. It did the math for me. How fantastic is that? So now I'm going to go back to my RPA. And we will see that all that information has now populated my RPA. There's my initial deposit. There's my loan amount. Now, if I make changes to the purchase price on the RPA, that deposit and that loan amount are not going to calculate. If I need to make changes to the price at any time, I'm going to go back to my finance worksheet and make a change to the purchase price there, and it will auto adjust. Just remember that. Okay. So that's the RPA finance worksheet. I also have the summary of the offer, the SUM-RPA. This is something that you Again, it doesn't have any signature blocks on it, but maybe this is a good cover sheet to your offer. This is generally the stuff that I would put in my email to the other agent anyway. This just this pulls in completely from the RPA and the summary. There's the date of your offer, the address of the property, the name of your client, what your purchase price is, your deposit amount, your loan amount, if it's a specific type of loan, what your close of escrow days is. Are you leaving the seller or a tenant in place? Is there a rent after the sale? What are your contingencies? Does your client need to sell something to buy this one? Are you asking for stoves, washer dryers, refrigerators, your name? And then there's some information, there's some space for the listing agent to fill in notes or the seller to fill in notes about your offer. It's a good cover sheet. And I recommend you use this. I mean, these are the broad strokes of the offer. Again, this is not the offer itself. It's just a summary, but it's a good cover sheet to your offer. All right, so my client received an email from me saying, please upload your proof of funds and your pre-approval. And he says, okay. So he's going to click view documents. It's going to bring him into Zip Community. Now, Zip Community is a secure and encrypted environment for my client to collaborate with me, to work on the transaction with me. Now, if they have never signed into this before, they can create an account. And you see here, it already knows their name. It knows that they're the buyer. It already knows their email address. It's going to suggest a username, and they have to create a password. So really, all they have to do is create a password, and their account is created. They also have the option to use Facebook or Google to do a single sign-on. My client has used this before, so he's going to sign in. Ricky Rick. All right. So when our client signs in, they will see a calendar of transaction dates. There's our offer date. There's our possession date. They have the option to email us or call us from here. And then we have the documents tab. So they have access to that RPA that we've been filling out. It is, as we mentioned before, it's not an editable version of the RPA. It's just a PDF preview. So they can go through here. They can review the terms that we've put into the RPA, to the purchase agreement. They see, oh, this all looks good. We have our 17 days for the loan. You know, if they have questions, they can ask us and we can go over it with them while they're looking at the document itself. But there's no pressure. They're not signing it right now. They're just reviewing it. And there's a reason why I like to share documents in this way, in this method. That's because our client just opened the RPA. It's 10:30 on the 9th, and we have an audit trail in the history of our transaction. Hey, look, Ricardo at 10:32 on the 9th, he viewed the RPA. So we have an audit trail in immutable proof that our client did review the RPA. So if they say, oh, you know, you signed, or I signed it and I didn't get to read it, well, I gave you the option to view it. This audit trail captures 180 different events. I won't go into all of them, obviously, but there's a lot of data in this transaction. A lot of data, and that goes along with it. So our client was able to view the RPA, but they also have this add doc button up here. So they can browse their computer or one of our supported cloud services. We asked for their pre-approval and their proof of funds. So let's go pre-approval and proof of funds. They're going to upload those into Zip Community. If we go to our transaction here, hey, there they are, that quickly. Because we have given our client permission-based, very, very specific access to the transaction itself, where we are collaborating on this transaction. So now that we have these two, I can click and drag my pre-approval and fill that placeholder. Another way to fill a placeholder is just to click right on it, and say fill with an existing. There's our proof of funds. And now our proof of funds and our pre-approval are filled in. Our placeholders are filled in. So there's a reason why I like these placeholders. I like working with PDFs in here. And the reason why is because you can actually have different versions of a document. So let's say that our client sent us a pre-approval and we're still putting the offer together. We say, you know what, actually, I got an updated pre-approval from my lender. Send V2 of the pre-approval. And then in here, we can click our little refresh, and there's our V2. So I can click and drag V2 over to the proof of funds. And now, if you notice, this is a stack of documents rather than it just being the one document. This is going to act like a folder of sorts. If I click into this, there's both versions of that proof of funds. It doesn't show up as a folder over here. It's just a stack of documents. Organization, order. It's a fantastic thing, okay? So we filled in our placeholders here. On my checklist, I had that pre-approval and the proof of funds on my checklist, so I can mark these as completed. Then I also have call the lender, that let him know that we're submitting an offer. So I called the lender, I left a message, it's in progress. Everything's color coded on these. It's fantastic. Okay. So our client was able to view the RPA. We had our RPA finance worksheet, our summary of the RPA. We shared documents with our client. We allowed them to upload things. And now we need to get this signed. So there's a couple different ways that we can start a signature packet, okay? If we are on the Documents tab looking at all the documents, we can click the e-sign button over here on the left-hand side. That's going to bring us to this screen that I get calls on all the time. They say, what do I do now? Well, it says click New to send documents for signature. So we're going to click New. What are we going to send? We're going to send the RPA. Easy as that. Now, by default, I have my signing service set to DigitalInk. The name of the packet is just going to be in sequential order, signature packet 1, 2, 3, 4. This packet name is going to end up being in the subject line of the email that your client receives. So just like any other email subject line, we want this to be short, clear, concise. What are they signing? Oh, before we get into that, I think I got ahead of myself here. We need to get a PED form. And we already have a PED template, if I remember correctly. So I'm going to go up here to apply template. And I'm going to apply my PED template. So my PED template had a PED form, no address. So I do need to add that address. Click a little drop down. But the only things that I had on my PED template were on the second page. I have my name. I checked the box for me, and I put my broker, my DRE number, and I checked the box for the buyer, because I'm definitely going to be representing at least one buyer. So I have my client in here. That's it. All I had to do is add the address, click my client's name, ready to go. Okay. Let's go back to our packets here. So we're going to click New. We're going to click our PED and our RPA. And we're going to name this. We're going to say purchase agree. That's 3 E's. No, that's too many. Too many E's. Purchase agreement and PED. Click next. It's going to ask me who's going to be signing today. I'm going to sign, and Ricardo's going to sign. Hit close. So now I get a lot of fun options here. Okay. First option I get is if I need to add another signer, I can do that here. If I want to add a reviewer, I can do that here. So a reviewer is someone that is not putting a mark. They're not placing any marks on the document itself, but they need to sign off on, sign off's the wrong word. They need to approve the document before the packet can be completed. So for example, if you are a new agent and you're working with a productivity coach, or maybe your broker wants to review your offer before you send it out, something like that, you can add that party as a reviewer, and this packet cannot be completed until that reviewer has approved of it. That's why it's a little thumbs up, because you need to get an approval. There's also a CC list. So the CC list, similar to the reviewer, but it's just someone that needs to receive a copy of the final packet when it's done. But this CC, this carbon copy person, this courtesy copy, they don't have any, they're not a stopping block in the signature process. They're just someone that's going to receive it, copy at the end. So if you put your transaction coordinator, your assistant, someone that's whoever's managing your file, you can put them on the CC list and they will receive a copy of those final documents once the packet's done. We have our time zone. Very important that you have the correct time zone on there. The last thing you want is to have your client sign something at 9 p.m. on a Sunday, and it shows that they signed it at 6 a.m. on Monday. By default, this is set to GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, Greenwich Meridian Time. That's in England. I don't think your clients are in England. They're probably here on the West Coast. So make sure that you have your time zone set correctly. We also have our cybersecurity options. So the cybersecurity options are an SMS text with a unique code that the signer will receive each time they try to sign a document. This is to authenticate their identity, that it is in fact the person that you sent it to that is actually signing it. I have used this in practice. I had a combative seller, two sellers, there's a husband and wife getting divorced. We used this because both parties were worried that the other one was going to sign on behalf of them. It's totally fine. This is not a free product. This is $5 per transaction, not per packet, per transaction. So once you pay for this, you will be able to use it as many times as you want in the same transaction. The clients the signers are going to receive a carbon copy of the final document once it's done. And then we have our signing order. So if you are using the same email address for two people, I highly recommend that you use the signing order, because what's going to happen is that especially if they're using Gmail or a threaded email inbox, if two emails come in at the same time that are identical, which these signature emails are identical to each other, they're gonna the first one's gonna collapse and they're gonna miss it. It just happens. Happens all the time. The first signer says, "Hey, I never got the email." Only the second signer got it. It's just gonna gum up the work. So if you have a signing order, they're gonna get an email. They're gonna sign. They're gonna get an email saying, "Thank you for signing," and then the next email is gonna come. So it's gonna break up that the timeline of when they receive those emails. If you want to turn off the signing order completely, you can do that. Just turn it off and then everybody will get it at the same time. I have a signing order. So right now in its current state, I'm going to get the email first, but maybe I want my client to get it first. So I have these little crosshairs. I can move my client up to the top and now he's number one. Works pretty well. For this one, I'm going to turn off the signing order. We do have a question here. Do the templates automatically update the revised forms? Yes, they do update the revised forms. So in the case of the RPA, this is an RPA year. If you have a template that has an RPA in it, that template will have the new RPA in it. There's one specific situation where that doesn't apply. So for example, if you've been in real estate for a while, you probably remember the CO form, the counteroffer form. That was good for a seller counteroffer. It was good for a buyer counteroffer. That CO form is no longer in use. So if you had a template that had a CO form in it, the CO form shows just some words that say this is no longer used, because there is the BCO, the buyer counteroffer, and the SCO, the seller counteroffer. So there are some forms that get retired, and if you have a template that has a retired form in it, you need to update your template. So that's the case where it is not going to update for you if a completely new form replaces it. You also asked, do you get notified if your template needs to be revised? No. You do get emails from CAR when a new form is being released. You know that it's June and December, or July and December is when the new revisions come out. They're available on car.org prior to the release. But yeah, in general, your templates are going to always pull the most current form from the form library. It's a great question. Thank you for that. All right, so I'm going to send this to my client. We're on step 2 where we selected the parties. Now we're going to go to step 3, which is where we actually add the signatures. Any day now, any day now. All right, so we have the coronavirus property entry advisory and declaration for the visitor. Now, this is a form. This is a good example of a form that does not auto-populate the signatures. So this is something that you have to manually tag. Now, if you remember, I had myself in here first, and then I had my client. So for the signer's initials, I'm going to put myself in there. I have the drag and drop tools. I am going to initial here. And then I want my client to initial here. Beautiful. Now we scroll down to the signatures. And now I already have my client selected here, so I'll just keep him there. And I will sign right there. If I want to grab the date, I can click this little sprocket and say add the date, then move it into place. Do the same for me. Grab a signature, throw it right there, grab that date, and move it over there. So you can see here, the sign here is in the way. Now the actual signers there, this is not, the sign here doesn't show up in the final product. But if it really bothers you, which I totally understand if it does, you can click the little sprocket and say flip vertical. And now the sign here is on the bottom. So you can move that out of the way. If that helps your OCD, I totally get it. It bothers me when it's in the way of it too. But we have sign here, we have our initials here. Good to go. There's also a acknowledgement receiving a copy of the form. We'll leave that one in there for me. All right, so the RPA packet bundle is going to auto tag. We're just going to kind of make sure that everything is auto tagged in here. Everything looks good. Now, once we get down to the liquidated damages and the arbitration clause, we will notice that these are optional fields. These are optional initials. Your client does not have to initial them if they don't want to. This is something that you need to coach your client on. Now, unless you are an attorney, don't give your client legal advice about what this paragraph means, but let them know to expect that, hey, this is an optional field. This is an optional initial. If you want more information about that, I recommend that you seek legal counsel. Don't give your client legal advice. I've told my client in the past, hey, in my experience, it's hard to get an offer accepted if you don't initial these. But please talk to an attorney if you want more clarification on what these actual paragraphs actually mean. But just coach your client. Make sure that they know to expect that. Everything else looks pretty good. I think we're ready to send this for signature. So I'm going to click next. And it's going to ask me, do I want to customize the invitations for each party? And for this, I don't need to send a separate email for each person. I'm just going to send the invitations as is. It says, thank you for using Digital Link. We can go back to our transaction here. So our client's going to receive an email. We are going to receive an email inviting us to sign. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but when I added my PED template, I had a broker PED form as well. So your template can have outside documents. You can add PDFs to your template. Now PDFs are not editable in zip. Only ZFX files are editable in zip, but you can include third-party documents if you have something like an affiliated business agreement or a local area disclosure. You can add those. Okay. Someone asked if this is being recorded, and I do believe that it is. All right, let's see if our client got that email yet. There, my signature. So the email is coming from me, even though it's actually coming from Authentisign. It's coming from me. It's going to tell them, hey, you have a purchase agreement and a PED form to sign. Awesome. So they're going to go in. And if you notice, when they clicked on that view documents, oh, look, it's part of Zip Community. That's a hint of what is coming. All right, so Rick has already signed with me before, so he actually drew his signature. Looks good. Someone asked, how can I use DocuSign? It's the same process. If you want to choose DocuSign as your default signing platform, you can do that. We'll take a look at that. So our client is going to sign. They're going to sign, and they're just going to make sure that they are reading all of these parts of the document, and then they get to the optional initial. So when they click on it, it's going to say, do you want to accept or decline? So that's what it's going to look like from the client side. Sign and sign and sign. And then it's going to complete signing. So someone asked, do the signature blocks automatically populate? So for most of the documents, if the document has a specific party, then yes, it will auto-populate. As we saw, the PED form, because it could be a buyer, a broker, and a tenant, and other entrant, because it could be one of many different parties, it's not going to auto-populate. Okay. So when they get to the end of the signing portion of it, it's going to say, thank you for signing. And it says, log in or create an account to access your document. So this is, your client is going to be offered a Zip Community account. It's free. Now, Rick already has a Zip Community account. So when he signs in, what he's going to see, as we've already seen earlier today, he's going to see a very similar interface. And if we click on e-signatures over here, there's the packet that they just signed. And they can see that I'm still waiting to sign it, but they signed theirs. So once there's my email. Once I start signing and finish this, the client will be able to do that, to sign it. So someone asked, can you show us how to send outside documents? Sure. Let me sign this, and then we can take a look at it. So I've already signed, obviously. I'm going to make this a little bigger. I'm going to initial. I'm going to sign, initial that. This, complete my signing. And now my signing portion is done. All right. So let's say that I wanted to, well, okay. Let's do a little bit of movie magic here, okay? So let's confuse ourselves to a very great degree at this point, okay? Let's just assume that this is an executed RPA. So I'm just gonna archive this one. All right, so now we have an RPA here. So let's assume, and I know we have to take a step back for a second. Let's assume that this is a listing and we receive an offer. There's an RPA here. So this is a PDF of the offer itself. If we were going to send this PDF for signature to our seller, it's going to come from the other agent, obviously, as a PDF. This is not editable by us. There's our purchase agreement that just came in. So if we receive this RPA from the other buyer, we can e-sign it. We're going to click new. We can grab this outside document, or if we want to add something from our computer, we can add an external document. We can browse for a external document, and it'll upload that PDF that we just pulled in as an external document. So that's how you can add external documents to your signature packets. Okay. Let's see. Talked about digital signatures, talked about Zip Community, adding external documents. We talked about Record Connect versus mls-Connect. We talked about templates. We have about 5 minutes left. Let's see if we have any questions coming in. Let me know. Let's get some Q&A going. What are the burning questions that we want to know? All right. So if there's no questions, let me just show you one last little tip and trick for you. The service that I mentioned that's $24.95 a year is Record Connect. Record Connect up here. Okay, so let's say that you got your offer accepted. All right, let's add our offer acceptance date. It got accepted today. Okay, so now I need to do my Avid. So I'll make sure that I'm in the correct library. I have my agent visual inspection disclosure. There's my Avid. So it's me doing the Avid. So let's say that I get to the entryway and there is a large chandelier. I don't know if I spelled that right. I did not, but it's fine. There's a large chandelier. Now that's specific enough, but it's a bit vague, in my opinion. Wouldn't it be better if I could add a photo to the document and actually show the chandelier? Let's do it. I'm going to click photo, attach a photo. Right. You got to make sure that you're on the right page. This is lagging up here. Let's make sure we're on the correct page of the document. Okay. Attach a photo. I'm going to attach this photo of a large chandelier, and then I have a caption. And I'm going to use my dictation. Large chandelier looks very hard to clean and looks expensive. Okay, so this is a snarky comment. Obviously, you wouldn't put this on an Avid. Click OK. It's going to drop this little photo tag here. Okay, so I can drop this photo tag right there. So we know that the Avid is 3 pages long. But if we preview this form now, get a little PDF preview of the form, oh, we see, look, it's 4 pages now because there's a photo at the end. And on the document itself, it's going to reference photo 1. And on here, photo 1 is the big chandelier with our snarky caption at the bottom. So you can add photos directly to your Avid. So maybe you are looking at the exterior of the building, front, sides, and back. And we say, hey, you know what? There's a crack that I saw on that entryway. And I think it's that one. You can say, visible cracks. Recommend getting an inspection to further investigate. grab that photo, put it right there. And now this 4-page document is now 5-page document. There's a reference to the photo too, and then there's a picture of a crack, visible cracks. Recommend getting further inspection. Okay. So that is that. We have about 2 minutes left. Let me draw your attention to zip tips. So I have created a library of 43 zipForm related videos. They're all 1 to 2 minutes long. If you go to car.org, go to the Transaction Center under Transaction zipForm Support. It's the first link, zip tips, playlist of videos. So these zip tips have a lot of really great video. They're great in my opinion. I created all of them, but someone asked, how do you add signature blocks to a PDF? Well, it's funny that you asked that because there's a video sending a PDF for digital signature. You say, oh, how do I use Digital 2.0 at DocuSign? Oh, there's a video about that. Okay. There's choosing your default signing service. If you are a DocuSign user and you want to change your default to DocuSign, you can do that. How to import and export your transactions, all of that. Using DocuSign for zipForm Mobile, you can get your client to sign right there on the spot on your device. Adding text fields to a PDF or to a document. We have a lot of really great stuff. How to use Zip Community to have your sellers complete their disclosures. A lot of good stuff. So if someone asks where do you start templates? So if you're on the templates tab, there's a big new button here. Create a new template. That's that. Any other questions before we end here? So the client sharing section. Okay, Terry had a good question about Zip Community. So our client has access to Zip Community up here. We gave them access to Zip Community through a collaboration invitation. We chose what we wanted to share and what they could do with that information. On the parties tab of the transaction, there's this little icon in the corner of each one. These are the share tools. So this share shows that they have the ability to upload. They don't have the ability to edit. If we wanted to give them editing privileges, which there's not really anything in here that we would want them to edit, we could give them editing privileges and then remove the RPA and all the other stuff. Just make sure that they only have access to what we want them to edit. But that's how you get to the sharing tools. Someone asked about getting the PED form signed. It doesn't matter where you get the PED form signed. Just get it signed. Whatever works. The best software to use is the one that you know how to use. So if something is working for you, continue to do it. If it's not, try something new. All right, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. Let's get out there and make some money. I want to thank the North San Diego County Association for putting this on. We're very lucky to have associations that care about their members, that want them to have up-to-date training. If you have questions, you can email your association, email me. Let me put my information back on the screen. There's my email address. Send me an email. It's renewal time right now, so please forgive me if I don't get back to you in a super timely manner. I have 500 accounts to renew in the next 2.5 weeks. But thanks, guys. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you for being here. Let's get out there and make some money, guys. Bye-bye.